Hello, I've chosen to start this book of Baroque Etudes with a very joyful piece, the Capriccio di Tromba. But not only because it's joyful, but also because right from the start we have one of the most important truths about music, which is that it is made from sound. If you ask me what music is in one word, it's sound. And sound is produced by allowing the particles of air to vibrate against each other, to bump into each other, as it were. When I make the sound vibrate, I need to release the sound from the instrument. If I pluck the string, I can hear it for quite a few seconds because I don't interfere. And the same with the bow. If I release the sound in that way, it will carry on for quite a few seconds. So I'm going to release the sound in that way. And already you can hear there are two aspects to the sound I'm producing. There's the now sound, the sound of the bow on the string, and there's the has-been sound, the resonance, creating a kind of aura, a secondary aura in the sound. Even if I keep the bow on the string, but I'm still feeling that I'm taking the sound out of the instrument. Even if I do that, then I can still hear this secondary aura. So that's what I'm going to practice on all the eighth notes, the quavers of this piece. Because when we play the D, we have the additional resonance of the sympathetic string. That kind of thing. So I'm constantly releasing the sound out of the violin. I'm not trying to force any sound into the violin for a very simple reason. I don't have any sound. It's the violin that has the sound. And my job is to release the sound from within the violin. When we come to string crossing patterns, it's often worth creating the patterns just with open strings. For example, in the second half of bar 16, the pattern is, so I'm going to practice releasing the sound just on the open strings. Then I'm going to add the actual notes. There's only one note to add here. In the first half of the next bar, the pattern is. So again, I'm practicing the pattern to get the maximum resonance out of the instrument, and then I add the fingers. The next half of the bar is, so it's, I'm going from the D to the E. And how do I do it? Well, I just follow the bow. The bow wants to go from here to here, so I follow it. But I always allow that resonance to come through. So the actual notes. So the whole pattern will be. I can double that last note to give it a little bit of extra sound. Now we come to the next technical problem, if you like, which is the Forlana rhythm that we have in bars 23 and onwards. It's quite a tricky rhythm. encounter many times in the Baroque repertoire. So it's worth knowing how to do that. From the long notes are, again, that resonant, and they're the main notes, if you like, and the other notes are secondary. So I'm producing the secondary sounds just with a little flick of the wrist. That kind of thing. There's probably too much contrast between important and less important notes there, so I'm going to reduce that contrast. By listening. I can make it more sung if I want. I would practice that on open strings first of all, and I would practice it with the metronome to make sure that we're really in rhythm. It's very important. Start off at about 60, 65 clicks, so about the speed I just played, and then move on to 85, and you can go as far as 100. It's more than you'll need for here, but it's a good thing to have. And the most important thing during when you're doing something complicated with the bow like that is to make sure that your whole body is completely neutral, that there's no tension in it at all. Just release all that, let the shoulders down. You can practice like that because that really helps you to keep the body completely neutral, completely free, and also allow the head to float. So then we can add some fingerings, and I would suggest starting off working on the Szewczyk Opus 1, Book 1, number 5, and the first exercise there. So we can practice that in a lyrical Forlana rhythm. Listening really to the sounds, especially the small sounds, and especially the fourth finger. And then we can gradually crank up the tempo. And as with all so-called technical difficulties, it's actually a question of creating the right sound. If we can be free in our body and we can create the right sound, then we have automatically found the technique. And we can try with dynamics. Any varieties that we want to do. We come now to one more question, the question of the triplets, especially the triplets in 38, because that string crossing is a little tricky. I'm going to play from the pickup to 38. So what I would suggest is we can again do the open string patterns, but it's a very good exercise to just play with the left hand. That kind of thing. And then just to allow the bow to, without making any sound, just to copy, or rather to follow, to shadow, if you like, the left hand. Here we go. This is from that. There, the hand is just following. Now, if I make a very small grunt-like sound, just to make sure that I am actually on the right string, so the left hand is the driving force, and the right hand is in some way following it. And then, when I'm more confident, then I can add the sound. So not to get tangled up. But of course, I can also analyze what the actual string crossings are and practice those in open strings. That's always a useful thing to do. Just a few more comments about this piece. The trills in bar 24, for example, when I make that trill, because it's not an expressive trill, it's not a beautiful trill, it's a electric trill, if you like. It's something which adds glitter to the sound. So I actually will help it with the bow. So the bow and the left hand set each other off, almost like they're getting a kind of electric shock. And I'll practice that up bow and down bow, and then and the 1-2 bars later is actually up bow. So there's the same. It's as if the left hand is a bell and the right hand is going to set it off like that. So so I'll lift the bow ever so slightly off the string, not as much as that, and then give it a little smack. So 24. The triplets in 35, etc., keep them flowing. What basically is happening is a D major scale, and I would suggest that's the right phrasing. And the other notes, they're kind of ornamental. So they're divisions, if you like. So to keep them flowing so they don't sound too mechanical. The little groups of 16th notes or semiquavers in places like 44, I would slightly separate them. So not but more that kind of a slight articulation in the bow. That will also help the clarity of the sound. That kind of sound. So there's a lot that you can practice, and throughout the course of this book, indeed with any etude, the idea is that it's a piece of music, and we need to find out how to make the music sound the most convincing. So it's always a question of listening and investigating and finding out what possible means we can use to bring out the clarity, the rhythm, the power, or whatever it is of the music. And it's from that will to make music that the technique ultimately comes. The techniques are not something in themselves. The techniques are there to make the music sound. So lots of things that you can practice there, and I hope you enjoy doing it. Goodbye.